When we started out, you were saying, and I totally agree with you, that present moment puts under a magnifying glass some of the things that we already knew about our society and its failings. And they become more apparent because they become more matters of life and death. So the inequalities for a generation and more are just suddenly so stark, so visible, and so fraught with just a kind of heightened stakes involved. I'm curious, though, are there certain things that you've seen in the last couple of months that have surprised you or that are prodding you to think in ways that you hadn't thought about society, our culture, the way that human beings behave, the way we believe?
As a slightly cynical child of the left, how complicatedly I feel in relationship to the category of ritual. So ritual, if you read any sociology of religion or any sociological theory, really, there is no sociological theory that describes society that does not also have a theory of ritual. So how do I know I'm in a society? I do certain things to join it, to participate in it, to be honored in it. And in the secular West that we occupy, the common images of that are things like graduation ceremonies, weddings, and funerals.
Yes.
And I became quite obsessed with and ended up writing something about the fact that these mass graves in Hart Island right now don't have any funerary rites. And when I read about that, I thought, well, maybe that, and this is so the impulsive administrator, I bet it's for reasonable, practical reasons that they don't do it. And I started reading all this forensic science research online, and I found there actually is a strong recommendation because there's a lot of literature about exhumation of mass graves, especially in issues of terrorism and violence, how you can give reconciliation to the lost people. But that even in that, they give strong advice that if a mass grave is necessary due to a natural disaster or a medical health crisis, that there are absolutely ways to insert some form of funerary rite. I started doing historical research and found out in the early medieval period, we have in Germany all kinds of ample archaeological evidence that they were able to provide, even in a moment of recognized public health crisis. So why am I, a person for whom I've never gone to a single graduation, weddings I did at courthouses, what is my relationship? I'm also obsessed with the disturbing fact. And it seems to me that the fact that we don't have a way of doing a funeral also means we don't have a way of having a society we want to honor, since funeral is a moment to honor the dead and recognize the societal loss of not having that person, but also that we will rebuild from it because there's a societal concept that pre and post exists, that horrible loss. And not having it feels to me like some very powerful metonym for the absent feeling that society, and this is not just of COVID, I think this is about what critics of capitalism have been yelling about for years. It's a very specific thing, and the race for the pursuit of wealth has left behind a vast middle, such that it's easy to toss one body after the other and simply say, this is just what we have to do. No, it isn't. We didn't have to do that. And in previous years, even on Hart Island, they incorporated funerary rites when they were doing mass burials. So to me, there's something here that I would never in this moment be simply optimistic. This will teach us something. I actually don't know if we have a lot of evidence that we know how to learn as a society together. When I'm with our students in Yale College, I think, it's going to be okay because they're so alive and aware and critically fighting. But when I face the economy that they then have to assert themselves into to survive, it's hard to imagine how we can fight for the pause and social reckoning that I think needs to happen.